And a very pleasant good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special episode of JMU Sound Off. I am Jonathan McNamara coming from Richmond, Virginia. Tonight, we have two guests, two of the coaches from JMU football, the offensive coordinator for the Dukes, Dean Kennedy, as well as our special teams coach, Canan, who's going to give us a little insight into what we're going to see on special teams this season. Really exciting as we try to bring you more insight into this coaching staff and what you're going to see in just less than 100 days now, as we're going to be on Bridgeport Stadium before you know it, cheering on the Dukes and what will be another exciting Sun Belt season. Got a great show brought to you, as always, by our sponsors. First and foremost, the Montpelier Collective continues to do great things to support players within all of the athletic programs at JMU. Skyline Financial Partners, really grateful to Tim and the team for continuing their support with us as we go into the new season. Where's Woody? We've seen some of the Where's Woody products at the New York Purple Nation store in Richmond, as well as throughout their website now as they continue to robust collection of JMU gear. Stay tuned for some new and exciting clothing from Where's Woody as we move over the next couple of weeks, commemorating the 20th anniversary of the 2004 National Championship team. So you're going to want to see what they're cooking up. Talent Corps, and then as always, yourpurplenation.com, your one-stop shop for JMU gear. Thanks to all of our sponsors for continuing to allow us to bring these shows to you each and every week, and for allowing us to continue to bring some of our student athletes onto the show to give you their perspective. And with that, we are going to get right to our coaches tonight because we know their time is valuable. We know you also want to hear from them, so we want to maximize our time in being able to tell their story as much as possible. With that, we're going to get to our two guests, Coach Canan and Coach Kennedy, live from the road. First of all, Coach Kennedy, where are you currently traveling? I know you're in the passenger seat, but how's the drive going?
It's good. I'm driving with my fiance from DC right now, but I'm fired up for you guys having us.
Well, safe travels. So we always ask our first of our new guests to give us a little bit of their story off the field. So I'll start with you, Coach Canan. You've been the longest tenured coach in terms of being with Coach Chesney. So if you're new in terms of maybe fans who haven't had a chance to see you or hear your story, walk us through a little bit of your coaching journey and how you first came to know Coach Chesney.
Absolutely. So I got started in college at Endicott College, which is Division III school up in Beverly, Massachusetts. And it was in the same league, as Salve Regina. So, when Coach Chesney was at Salve, we would always go against each other and had some great battles. And then he went from Salve to Assumption. And then, his second year at Assumption, special teams wide receiver job opened up, and Paul McGonigal was a good friend of mine, and he was the offensive coordinator at the time at Assumption. And, he was fortunate enough to recommend me to Coach Chesney. And again, we knew each other a little bit, but I was fortunate to go and interview there at Assumption. Still the longest interview of my life, 8.5 hours. And I always give him a hard time. No lunch. We just went straight through, talked a lot of football. And 2 days later, I got the call and got the job. So I've been very, very fortunate. So we were there for 4 years, had a lot of success. And then when he went to Holy Cross, again, I was very fortunate. He took me there and had some great times, some great memories for 6 years. And here we are at James Madison. So it's been a great run so far.
Awesome. Same question to you, Coach Kennedy. Take us a little bit into your coaching journey and how you first came to know Coach Chesney.
Yeah. So I went to school at University of Rochester in upstate New York, where I played football and basketball there. And I graduated and actually got into a sales job. And it was kind of then I realized, what I was missing in my life and really what I wanted to do in terms of getting back into football. So I got a job at a junior college called ASA New York, where I was the quarterbacks coach there. And then our head coach, he got a job at it was called ASA Miami, so it was the same junior college, but in terms of who we played and all that, it was a little different. And then went to Mississippi State for a year, and then I got linked on at University of Florida. I was there for 4 years under Dan Mullen, and that was kind of towards the end of my time at University of Florida. That was when I, really realized that, hey, I need to get a full-time coaching job. And I just randomly reached out to Coach Chesney, and it was a year before I got the job. I wrote him a letter, and he ended up writing a letter back. And this kind of speaks to the character of who he is. We have a charity, a local charity in Boston that he ended up donating to without ever having met me. And he wrote a letter back to me saying, hey, I appreciate the card. I donated to your family's charity, blah, blah, blah. And a year later, a job opened up and I interviewed for it. And, when I got offered the job, it was kind of a no-brainer just in terms of the character of who he is, how he runs the program. It's kind of everything that I ever wanted in a program and to be a part of and help lead these young men. And kind of like what Coach Canan said, and now we're at JMU kind of with the same focus, same mindset, and we're ready to roll.
The one question I also want to ask both of you, because you have the interesting perspective of coming from a school like Holy Cross, which was a school that really grew in its prominence at the FCS level, but you had a chance to see JMU as a program in terms of kind of their arc of growth. So I'll go to you, Coach Canan. What was your perception of James Madison football before you ever came to Harrisonburg? Because I think it's really interesting for us as fans who are really close to the program to know what kind of the reputation of JMU is around the country, but also in the coaching circles.
Yeah, so when we started having a little bit of success, at Holy Cross, and we get into the FCS playoffs, back in 19 and 20 and 21. I always remember, talking with some of the older coaches about, looking at the bracket. And I never forget the first time we got in there and they said, you want to stay away from that team. And they pointed right to James Madison. And I said, really? And they said, yep. And they actually were coached in the CAA, some of those coaches. So they had been down here, and they said the game day atmosphere with the streamers and everything. And they said it's one of the most intimidating places you're ever going to go to. And I heard that for 3 straight years. So then they moved to FBS. But when I walked onto Bridgeford Stadium over my right shoulder, I knew exactly what they were talking about. So I've heard about them for 3 or 4 years. And when you get down here and you're you're around the community, when you're with these players, when you step in this facility, you realize how they've won and why they've won. So it is certainly the expectations that they have here are really high, and you can see why. But people have told me about James Madison for years, and I can see why.
The same question to you, Coach Kennedy, and curious your perception, but also how that's kind of lived out now that you're down in Harrisonburg.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first word is it's just been a winning tradition, and I think it's every single year. It doesn't matter who's been leading the program. Like, this place just flat out wins, and it's been proven over and over and over again. We talk about multiple national championships. That's hard to do. Winning one is hard to do. Never mind multiple. So I think that just the fact that this place has always won, and kind of like what Coach Canan said, the first time I got here, I had never been to Harrisonburg. I'd never seen the stadium. I never broken down any film with crossover or anything like that. And the first thing that everyone said is the atmosphere, right? The stands, the stands are always filled. And, we send a decent amount of graphics out to our recruits. And one of the first things that I use is just a video of game day, that, where there's an aerial view of, this absolute campus being packed, and then just how nuts our fans are. And that's everything you want in a college football atmosphere, from a young football recruit, a high school recruit. I don't know how you wouldn't want to come here and play in front of, these type of fans. And they just care so much about football. I think that's the coolest thing. Like, this city truly, rallies around the football team, and that's everything you want, and you couldn't ask for anything more. So we're just excited to finally line up and see it live for the first time.
Awesome.
I think Taylor's on mute.
Yeah, I can't hear him. Is it?
Yeah, he is.
It was.
Yeah.
It's because John didn't introduce me. No, it's not John's fault for anyone watching. Coach Canan, we were talking before the show a little bit about how special teams is going to look a little different, and the kind of the buzz and the excitement that was around it at the spring game. I would love to hear kind of your insight in what is behind that buzz, and what should fans be looking forward to this season.
Absolutely. Well, we talked about it before. I've been with Coach Chesney for 10 years now, and I could probably count on my left hand how many special teams meetings he's been at. Missed, excuse me. He's there, the first meeting that he has, or last meeting that he has Sunday evening, will be with myself, and Coach Moran, as if you start to talk about the game plan, he'll come back in there Monday morning and kind of see where we're at. So, when we get to that meeting, on Tuesday, that first special teams meeting, he's going to know everything inside and out. And I think that's really, really important. He's not a guy that just, sits in the back and just nods. He's going to be asking those guys questions. He's going to know exactly what the scheme is. And I think that's so important to have the head coach involvement. I think number 2 is he demands that from the staff too, and this whole staff is going to be involved in special teams. Some maybe a little bit more than others, but every special teams, if you come to a practice, you're going to see every coach coach involved, and that includes Coach Kennedy on some of the drills, you know, and that includes our offensive line coach. That includes, you know, Coach Daniels, the defensive line coach. They're all going to be involved, and that starts from Coach Chesney. And you know, the best groups that we've had over the years are ones where we get the buy-in, you know, from all those guys. And you know, when we we in our first special teams meeting back in March, you know, we showed a picture of Ezekiel Elliott, and we talked about how, you know, when he was a freshman at Ohio State, he had 252 rushing yards that year. That was all he had, you know, and he ended up having almost 2,000 the next two. But he was a top 5 draft pick. But his role, his freshman year, was to be on the kickoff and the punt team. And you're talking about a guy, again, who was a top 5 draft pick, but that was his role. He embraced it. That was the culture that they had. And then we showed a picture of Jamison Williamson, who, you know, went to Alabama. He was the 12th pick in the draft. And his last year at Alabama, he had 79 catches. He had 15 touchdowns. He was the SEC Special Teams Player of the Year. So you kind of look at, you know, both sides of the fence. There's a guy in Ezekiel Elliott who had to wait his turn a little bit, but bought in and was heavily involved in special teams. Then you look at, you know, Jamison Williamson. There's maybe, I don't know if he's Alabama's best player. They have a lot of good players, but there's one of their best players, and it's the SEC, and he's the Special Teams Player of the Year. So if you can sell that to those guys, you know, and they can buy in, I think that's when you have a chance to be really, really special. And, you know, I don't want to give any names, but I think as the spring went on, you know, and the meetings went on, I think you could see that buy-in, you know, starting to build each day. And, you know, the big thing for us is we want people to leave Bridgeport Stadium inspired by how we played on special teams. And we want that 7 or 8 year old kid to say, Dad, did you see what they looked like on kickoff? Dad, did you see how, you know, aggressive they were on punt rush? And, you know, to us, there's no better feeling, you know, when it's 4th and 7, 4th and 8, and here comes the JMU punt rush team. And you can feel it when it's 26,000 people, and you can feel like something good is about to happen. And, you know, the best ones that we've been around, when you get the buy-in, you got a chance to be really, really special. So, you know, we're very lucky here. We have some outstanding specialists, you know, that are really, really good. And we got a lot of guys that I think, you know, are bought in, and we can't wait to get going. And we want those people, again, to be inspired, you know, when they watch us on special teams.
Well, I think for the JMU fan base, 2 of the most memorable plays in program history was a punt return in 2004, a kick return in 2008 against App State. And then I think back to last season, one of the most impressive performances we had was in the Marshall game, where we're downing punt after punt after punt at the 5-yard line. So it's almost like special teams can sometimes get overlooked. But if you're honest with yourself, some of the most memorable moments and some of the biggest heartbreaks are from either letdowns or successful execution on the special team side.
100%. And I go back to, you know, at 22, you know, when we were at Holy Cross, we were 11-1. And, you know, you look back at that year and you know, those guys up there, first of all, they were really good players. So that helps. And we got really, really good players here, really, really good players. So, but we had a big impact on a lot of games. And we're excited to do the same here. You know, we really, really are. And even last year when they blocked the punt against Virginia, you know, that was a huge play in that game, you know, and we showed them that, you know, and they blocked the punt against Bucknell. So, you know, the buy-in has been here, and hopefully, you know, we can take some of the stuff that we've done and, you know, add that here. And I think if you know, add, you know, if you look at what they've done and look we've done, now you put them together, I think you get a chance to be really, really special.
Well, thank you. And Coach Kennedy, you know, last year was your first year as offensive coordinator at Holy Cross, and it culminated with a top 5 FCS offense. Your quarterback was National Player of the Year. Holy Cross was once again successful in the FCS playoffs. So I would love to hear kind of what you can tell JMU fans what to expect from this JMU offense this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is, and we've had meetings on our offense. First thing that we offense doesn't.
I think we might be losing Coach Kennedy a little bit. All right, I think we lost Coach Kennedy. So let me, Coach Canan, let me ask. I had one other question for you, and it was kind of talking about. We talked a little bit about this pre-show as well, just from a recruitment aspect, and we were talking about culture and the coaching staff. I know a lot of the, I mean, if we're honest from a fan perspective, the only thing that seems to get talked about is transfer portal and NIL. And I would imagine as a coach, it kind of gets just overly saturated because there is so much more to the culture, to the program, to the game that I would love to hear, you know, you're the one interacting with the players. How much is culture, coaching, development still on the table for players when you're talking about recruiting and it not just being about this NIL transfer portal thing that you hear the most in the media?
100%. And that's such a good question, Taylor. You know, and whether you're talking about James Madison, whether you're talking about the New England Patriots, the Boston Celtics, you win with players, but you win with great culture. You know, and that's one of the main reasons why we had so much success. At Holy Cross is we recruit guys that love football. You have to love it. You got to love to go to practice. You got to love the weight room. You got to love to go to team meetings. You got to love to watch extra film and that's one of the reasons why we've had success, and the same reason why James Madison's had success. And culture is a big part of what Coach Chesney talks about. And he talks about three things every day. He talks about attention to detail. He talks about positive attitude. And he talks about urgency. And that's what our core beliefs are. That's what our culture is built on. That and competitiveness. And those are the types of guys that we want. And I think when you walk around here, you can feel the culture, and again, James Madison, we've had the success that we've had because we've had those types of guys, the guys that just live, breathe football. They want to be around us. We want to be around them. It's all about relationships too. The worst thing that can happen is, a tight end leaves here and say, Coach Canan, he didn't get everything out of me, and that's my job, is to get everything out of them. Well, we can't do that unless we trust each other, unless we have tough conversations, truthful conversations. And, I just remember getting this quote years ago, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and we truly believe that if a player trusts you, and a player believes in you, he's going to run through a wall. And that's some pretty powerful stuff. So culture is so important here. And I know it's something that we talk about every day in the staff. Getting to know your players. Just not as football players, but as individuals. Keeping on them academically, asking them about how their family's doing. So all those things are preached from the top with Coach Chesney, and we do our best to make sure that we're getting that through to our players.
Right. Well, and Coach Kendi, I want to go back to you. So kind of a two-part question now. One, talk about the offense and what's coming up this year, but then two, kind of build on top of what Coach Canan was saying about just what the culture means at JMU, the coaching staff, and how these players are coming to JMU to be on this team with these coaches at this school.
Yeah, I mean, first, I guess with the offensive philosophy, I don't know where I cut off, but the things that we define ourselves by is, basically having relentless effort, and we want to be an explosive offense. And I think to be an explosive offense, you need to have relentless effort across the board. So there's so many times, that's how we define ourselves. But like I said before, it's just statistically proven from being an explosive offense and having explosive plays that your percentage of scoring goes up every single drive when you have two or more explosive plays per drive. So that's how we kind of look at it from an overall offensive philosophy standpoint. But, we dig more into it. And I think, when you see a running back run the ball for 40 yards, right? Obviously, he did a good job of making people miss and finishing. But to me, there's a lot more that goes into it. There's 10 other people on the field besides the running back who's carrying the football. So are the receivers blocking down the field? So that is the biggest thing that we stress day in and day out. We constantly are grading those relentless effort plays, constantly grading those explosive plays of how they happened. And then if you want to dive down into a little more, I think the biggest thing, and, really my job is find ways to get our playmakers the ball in space. We're lucky here that we're going to have depth in every single position group. So we're going to be extremely, extremely multiple. And I think that's the biggest thing is that, you get really good at what you do, and then you find ways that present that you get really good at what you do. And then you find difficult ways to present what you do well to the defense, what the defense struggles with. And that's kind of, where I definitely think this offense is going to really take off, is because we're going to be really good at what we do. We got players that care. We have players that attack practice every single day. And it's just finding different ways to do the stuff that we do really well things with. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then kind of going off with what I think it's more than just football here, right? They come to JMU to play football. They come here to have an amazing degree, but it's setting people up for life after football. And I think that's the biggest thing that, you know, can go unnoticed at times in different programs and different cultures. But, you know, we want to, you know, in 20, 30 years from now, there's nothing better when a player comes back and said, you changed my life. You know, I'm doing what I want to do in life because you guys were with me for 4 years. And there's so many things that we do that has nothing to do with.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit on Coach Kennedy. So, oh, there you are.
Can you guys?
You must be going through. Yeah, you must be going through a bad patch. It's probably where the University of Virginia is trying to jam the signal, which I don't blame them. I wouldn't want us to get this information out. Felt good. Let me follow up with you on what you just said in terms of setting them up for life, because that kind of dovetails into the questions I have for you and Coach Canan. You know, one of the things that we're dealing with in this day and age is NIL. And at the end of the day, what you just said is setting up for life is not the NIL piece. But I also want to kind of get your comment on, you know, how we're helping different student athletes with NIL, what the importance of NIL is. If you just want to speak to that just for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely huge. And obviously college football has changed so much in the past 4 to 5 years. And you just look at, I mean, the more resources you have, the more things that you can do with the players, the more, you know, better nutrition that we could have for an individualized plan for each individual person, the more, you know, machinery you can have in the weight room. All that's going to lead to is just putting a better product on the field, right? And kind of like what Drew said earlier, like, it is about the players. And that is the cool thing about this program. It is a player-driven organization. And to be able to have a player-driven organization, you have to recruit really high, talented players, right? And that's kind of the biggest thing, is that we're going to develop people in this program. We're going to develop you on the field. We're going to develop you off the field. But to be able to get that and put, you know, a national championship product on the field, we're going to need some really, really good recruits in this program. And that's kind of the thing, you know, when you start to tie in the collective and you start to tie in where college football is now, you know, it's the crazy part is that, you know, this game costs a lot. That, you know, all the nutritionists, you just talk about everybody that has, you know, a little piece of the pie that goes into this stuff, that, you know, puts so many hours into putting the best product on the field. And at the same time, like I said, to be able to do that, you know, we got to recruit really high levels. So I think the collective, it's a huge piece. It's a huge piece in today's college football game. And, you know, the more we can get everyone on the same page and just keep driving towards, you know, excellence, I think it's going to be a really, really good thing for JMU football.
And same with you, Coach Canan, kind of the same piece in terms of how you're seeing kind of the NIL piece. I think what Coach Kennedy was just talking about also had the alpha dog piece into it. So the nutrition, the staying off campus in a hotel, the locker room that you guys have now, the graphics you have, none of that stuff was there in 2014. So 10 years ago when the alpha dogs started, you didn't have really any of the stuff you have now. So you've got kind of the alpha dogs giving money to the football team, but you also have the NIL piece. Can you speak to kind of how you're seeing that help on the tight end side, on the special team side?
100%. I mean, you know, what you guys have done, you know, in 10 years, you know, it all matters, you know, it all that stuff matters. And when you walk into that locker room and you see, again, I wasn't there 10 years ago, but I mean, when we bring recruits in that locker room and, you know, their eyes go wide open, you know, and they see that and they're like, oh my God, you know, it's beautiful, you know, and you walk into that weight room, you know, the nutritional stuff is unbelievable, you know, when you walk in there in the morning, you know, and you see what's available and you see, you know, how much effort goes into all that and, you know, what we're able to do with them, you know, all that little stuff matters. Again, Coach Kennedy said it's the world that we're living in now. So, you know, what's transpired, you know, in the last few years, you know, is huge. And the more that we can get that help, you know, all that stuff makes a difference. Again, you know, you're talking about 18, 19-year-old kids, you know, when you send them a graphic and you can, you know, see some of the stuff, you know, from College Game Day, all that stuff. And again, you can show them, you know, the stuff that we have at JMU. It's a big piece of the recruiting pie. It's not the end of it, but, you know, what the collective has done so far and what they're going to do, it's very, very exciting time.
I was going to ask both of you because we talk a lot about recruiting on the show. We've kind of talked about around the edges about recruiting, but I'm curious, is there anything that surprised either of you now that you're recruiting for this program? We heard from Coach Chesney that you know, he expected to have a received message when he went to high schools in Virginia, but he was even a little bit surprised at just how many kids knew about JMU when he went to other parts of the country. Maybe start with you, Coach Canan. What's your reaction been to the reception of this program? Maybe coming off of, the fact that we've had, the most historic successful season in the history of the entire athletic department. It's really, the college basketball success that we've had, even our college baseball team, soccer's, the lacrosses, all being in the NCAA tournament has really led to a whole new level of notoriety for this program and a new level of awareness in terms of eyeballs on it that we've never seen before in terms of the numbers.
Absolutely. So, funny story. So, when I went on the road in January, I have a piece of Northern Virginia. So, I have all my notes, what I'm going to say, all this stuff, So, you start to, talk a little bit, so you get the head coach there and you say, hey, about James Madison, all this stuff, this is this is that. And the coach stopped me halfway and goes, hey, Drew, just so you know, you don't have to sell JMU to anybody up here. And I said, okay, and that's when I realized, like, oh, this is a little bit different, and the thing that has really been surprising is, I recruit New England. So, obviously the success that we had, was very easy, when we were at our last stop. So you're not really sure when you go up there, and you start talking about James Madison and 7.5 hour, 8 hour drive. But when you walk in and you have this logo, right here, all of a sudden they know who we are. And it's funny when the basketball team was having their run, you get a text from a recruit, hey, you guys are good at everything, huh? And it's unbelievable, even up there, people know about us, they know the success that the program has had, and they want to be part of it. And the big thing that I realized too is we're going to compete, with a lot of the Power Fives, when it comes to recruiting, because of the winning, because of the facility, because of people like you, Jonathan, and everybody else that's on this platform right now, because of the love for James Madison, because of the fan base. When you can show them, and Coach Kennedy talked about it, when you can show them 26,000 people showed up for college game day, I mean, that's one of the most powerful things, that we have. And then you get to nutrition, and then you get to the facilities and the winning. People all around the country know about James Madison, and obviously the baseball and the basketball. So it's a place that a lot of young men want to be at. And then academically, it's a very, very good school. So there's a lot of things going very well, in Harrisonburg right now.
And same question to you, Coach Kennedy. And maybe one other addition to your question I'll ask, is there about maybe 10 or 20 million people are about to download a new video game in a couple of weeks that's going to feature JMU football. And I know your players are super psyched about it. That's going to mean a whole new set of eyeballs on James Madison football. So some of the lists that people are putting out there, I guess we lost Coach Kennedy, but I'll ask the question to you, Coach Canan, then. What do you think of the new college football video game and what it potentially means, again, from a brand awareness perspective, that not only are people going to be maybe introduced to JMU football for the first time, but there's going to be a whole new set of coaches that get to call plays for the program now through the comfort of their own home. A little less pressure on the coaches at home than when you guys are standing on the sidelines at Bridgeport, but it's still got to be pretty cool to see.
My first question is Coach Kennedy going to let me call a few plays? So that's what I'm hoping.
Hey, I think if you pay 118 or whatever it is for the game, you don't have to ask his permission. So.
No, I think it's great though, and I know our players are really excited, about it. They've been talking about it. I think it's great. It just, college football is exploding, and for the better, and I think it's really, really cool. I can't wait to play. I'm not really a video game guy, but I'm really excited, to see it. But I know our players are really, really excited about it. I'm sure Coach Kennedy can talk a little bit more about that, but I know the guys are really pumped up for it.
Yeah, so Coach Kennedy, did you play when it was NCAA 14? You're a younger coach, so I imagine you probably fired it up back in the day as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that was, like Coach Canan just said, I wasn't a big video game guy, but the only video games that I did play were Madden and NCAA college football. So I think it's really cool. I think it's phenomenal for, these young student athletes just be able to see their names on a jersey, be able to see play for each other, play JMU against whoever they want. So I think it's a really, really cool thing. And kind of like Drew said, it's just, college football is exploding in the best way possible. And it's putting, every single school's name and their brand on a national map, which I think is really cool and very good for these 18 to 23-year-olds.
Well, I have to apologize to the virtual versions of YouTube because my schedule that I'm going to put in for the next couple of seasons is going to be quite robust. We're taking road trips we're going to Oregon, we're going to Penn State, we're going to all the bucket list schools I have. So I won't hold that against you. I did want to ask you before we get to the last two hosts, have a few more questions for you. I think we're best when we introduce you as more than just football coaches, because there's so much that goes on in your lives that really shapes who you are. So I'll start with you, Coach Canan. When you're not coaching football, what are some of your hobbies? What are the things you like to get into? And just maybe introduce fans to a little bit of you off the field.
Absolutely. Well, I think some of my family is actually watching right now up in Massachusetts, so I want to say hello to them. My beautiful wife Carrie, and then I have a 5-year-old daughter, Kaya Ray. So hopefully she's getting ready for bed. But if not, then I'll call you when I'm done, Kaya. So obviously, that's been the toughest part is they're still up in Massachusetts. So I haven't been able to see them a ton, but I obviously love spending as much time as I can. My father, was a high school basketball coach, was an athletic director, was a college softball coach for 25 years. So, I've been very lucky to be around him, very blue collar. I've been very fortunate, he's taught me a lot, and phenomenal mother as well. So I've been very, very lucky, and sister, who was a very, very good volleyball player. But I love playing golf. I actually, funny stories, I played college golf. So I played football and golf growing up, and I remember my dad saying they were both fall sports in high school, and he said that you can play golf the rest of your life, you can only play football once. And I ended up playing football for 4 years, and I loved it. I was fortunate enough to play college golf down in Florida, and then I realized quickly just that I missed everything about football, and fortunate enough to get back into coaching down in Florida, and here I am. So, but if I could play 18 holes of golf a day, I'd be a very, very happy guy.
So, Coach K, before I ask Coach Kennedy the same question, who are some of the other guys giving you a run for your money on the staff now?
Me.
We'll start with Coach Hemfeld. He's very, very good short game, very good inside 150 yards. Really, really good putter, good around the greens. When he's hitting the ball well off the tee, he's tough to beat. He's really, really good. And Coach Chesney's good as well. There was a rumor that he shot a 38 today. I wasn't there, so I cannot confirm that. But he told me he played really well, and we actually played last week. So he's good. He hits it a mile. So it's always good to get out with those guys. I don't think we want to talk about Coach Kennedy's golf game just yet. We'll wait for that for a little bit. But no, it's a good staff, and we like to get out there and have a good time. So very, very lucky when it comes to that.
Awesome. Coach Kennedy, I got to let you respond to that.
Yeah, he's not wrong. When I say I'm awful, I am awful at golf. There's one person.
Okay, well, when you're not doing golf, though, so you're in the same boat as me then. Tell us a little bit about Coach Kennedy off the field. Obviously, we know you have a great fiance who's willing to put up with you in the car right now. Give us a little insight into you off the field. Oh, did he freeze again? Okay. That 81's hurting us on this. But I last maybe question, maybe he pops back on. It seems like every 30 seconds he gets. Coach K, what, from your perspective, is the message to fans now as you go throughout the summer? Just, I know there's a lot of work that happens in the next couple of weeks before you even get into camp. That this is probably when some of the most important work in terms of building your bodies and getting these players to develop chemistry and relationships really makes it. I've heard from coaches in the past, this is some of the more important time that you have in your calendar. So maybe take fans into what the next few weeks looks like, and then your message to them as we get ready for what's going to be an exciting run up to the leadoff as we all head down to Charlotte, which should be a big crowd of purple clad fans down in North Carolina.
Absolutely. So, the guys came back, I think probably about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks, and they came back in great shape. I know Coach Chesney was very, very excited. You never really know what's going to happen those 3 or 4 weeks when they leave. You worry a little bit about, they go back home. Are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? And I think, I don't want to speak for him, but I think Coach Chesney is very excited about how the players look. And now they've just been with Coach Novak and his staff, who does an unbelievable job. Our strength and conditioning, coordinator. He has them, and they spend a lot of time with him. So, they're in there. First group's in there at 6:30 in the morning tomorrow morning. And they're just getting after it. And the cool thing for us is, we're able to kind of, as an offensive staff now, we're starting to go back and watch, all of our cut-ups from the spring. Okay, what do we like? What don't we like? Do we want to carry this? Do we have the personnel to do this? Yes, no. So that's been good. And to be able to meet with our players, and just, it was difficult, not difficult, but it was a little challenging, just to try to install everything. There was a brand new offense in the spring and a brand new defense and brand new special teams. So now we can kind of take a little bit of a breather here. And when we meet with them, just go over all the finer details of everything. Hey, if we get this look, this is what we're doing. This is why we're calling it, so that's been a really, really good piece of this, I think what they can expect is they can expect a group that's going to compete, and that's that's what a Bob Chesney football team does. They compete for 60 minutes. Coach Kennedy talked about it, relentless effort, and they're going to see a very, very aggressive group. I feel like on all three units, and we're very, very excited to get going. I know the fans are excited, and I know our guys are really, really excited. Like I said, it's been a great 2 weeks so far, and they look like they're in great shape. They're working so hard with Coach Novak, and we're excited to get going as well.
All right, Coach Kennedy, we'll give you one last chance to pump up your fiance, because again, I know that's probably an answer we want to get on the record.
Yeah. First of all, I'm sorry. It seems like every time I go to talk, I get cut off.
It's okay.
But no, yeah. So we're getting married this July. Super excited for that. So kind of, I guess, in our spare time, we like to travel. So typically football coaches get off a little, 2 or 3 weeks in early July and the end of June. So for the past, I'd say about 6 or 7 years, we typically leave the country and just go see different parts of the world, different cultures. So that's kind of the big thing that we're into, is just traveling, seeing different people, different places, and just getting out of wherever we're living from, taking a little break from everything.
Awesome. Taylor, you're up.
Well, I just wanted to kind of ask a little bit of a fan-related question. You guys have heard a lot about the JMU atmosphere, the JMU program, the JMU game day experience, whether it's the streamers, the band, the tailgating scene. If you don't know what Section 109 is, you'll learn very quickly the first game. But what are some of the things that you as coaches are kind of looking forward to experiencing as a game day at JMU, that not only you're looking forward to it, but then you can kind of take on and speak to it firsthand in next year's recruiting class?
Coach Kennedy, you want to go before you break up again?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think that's the biggest thing, is that we have just heard so much of how crazy these fans are, how supportive they are, what the game day atmosphere entails. And kind of like I said before, I mean, there's multiple graphics that we send out, to 2025 recruits. And one of the first things I send out is just that viewpoint of what that campus was like when game day came here. And everyone talked about how we broke a record of most amount of people on game day, all that sort of stuff. So when you be able to say that, and game day's been around for I don't know how many years, but you just talk about the campuses and universities that it's been to, and for them specifically just to talk about how crazy and how nuts JMU was that specific day. I mean, I'm just really looking forward to seeing it actually in person, live. And the biggest thing, I just can't wait till, we score a touchdown and just hearing those fans go nuts. I think that's the thing that I'm most looking forward to, and just seeing it, on that first Saturday. And
I would say the same. I would say the same thing. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Honestly, just walking on that field during pregame and starting to look up and seeing that sea of purple. And I know every coach is excited. We've heard so much about it. And even at the spring game, to have 4,000 or 5,000 people there, and have the band there. I've heard so much about the band, so I'm excited to hear them play. And actually, we heard them play in the spring game, and then to get an opportunity to hear them a little bit more. And I've heard so much about the streamers. I'm just excited for it all. Like I said, I think we all, get goosebumps thinking about it, because it's such a home field advantage. And, we all can't wait.
All right, I'm gonna make before we wrap. And if it goes south because of I-81, then we'll pivot. But you guys know each other best, so I thought it's been a cool tradition on the show when we've had two coaches. We let you ask each other one question. So, Coach Canan, before he goes back out of service, do you have a question for Coach Kennedy that might bring us a little insight into a little more of who he is as a person that would be good for fans?
Oh, it's a good question. Oh, well, I guess Coach Kennedy, who's your favorite offensive coach? I guess that's what I would want to know.
Wow. I was going to say you until you talked about my golf game, so I don't know if I can stick with you right now. That's a very
Fair
good
enough.
question. I'm going to plead the fifth on that one, but off the record, I'll say you just because I'm looking at you right now.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You know,
All right, Coach Kennedy, you're up.
that's a great question. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think you might have stumped me. I guess I'd say this to, Coach Canan. If you were to take golf out of the equation, then what's your favorite hobby?
Oh, I'm not good at much else. It's a really good. Oh, you know what? I haven't done it in a while, but I was actually talking about this with Coach Chesney. I wish that I skated a little bit more. I grew up playing hockey. That was a big thing of mine, being a Northeast guy. Growing up, 20 minutes north of Boston. So, I wish that was something that I did a little bit more of. So I wish I skated a little bit more.
Well, as the hockey player on this show, I have a feeling you're a Bruins fan, so we might not
I am
agree on that.
Bruins and Celtics.
There you
So
go. Well, you've
yeah.
had a pretty good year, so awesome all around. Well, gentlemen, guys, I know you're just really in the thick of what I know is about to be a busy stretch for you. I know there's really not any downtime for college coaches these days, but just on behalf of all of our fans and everybody associated with this program, thank you for the sacrifices you make. Thank you for the contributions you do, both on and off the field. You give us all something to talk about, and we never want to lose sight of what it takes to do this job. We know you're all passionate about it and you love it, but at the end of the day, we really are grateful for what you give us each and every week because it's an escape for us. It gives us all something to come back to during the year, and it means a lot to all of us who have been fans of this program. And just know that we're all rooting you on, and you always have a platform here to be able to get any message you want out. And we're just grateful for what seems to be a pretty special staff here in Harrisonburg now of just really great people. And go Dukes, and all the best as you go throughout the summer. And hopefully you get a little bit more downtime before camp starts, especially to spend with your families. But we wish you all the best. And Coach Kennedy, congratulations on the upcoming wedding. We wish you safe travels back to Harrisburg the rest of your way, and look forward to talking to you guys in the fall.
We appreciate you guys. You guys mean a lot to us. And like you said before, you guys definitely help us getting our message across to everybody and helping our program keep moving in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep doing it. And Coach Canan, hope you get to swing the golf club a little bit more and maybe show some pointers to Coach Kennedy as he goes throughout the rest of the summer. Got to up his game a little bit.
Let's see what I can do. And again, I really appreciate you, Steve, Chandler, Taylor. This was great. What you guys do, it doesn't go unnoticed. And we're very lucky to have, yourself and the rest of those guys and the rest of this fan base. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
Awesome. And all the best to the Bruins fans up in Massachusetts watching you tonight. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks again. And with that, we'll bring back the rest of our show, our team. Guys, what a great conversation. I think the takeaway for me is that this staff is just tremendous people. I mean, their willingness and their access that they've given shows like us, but their willingness to kind of give us a little insight to who they are as people too. This is a special group, and I think from our conversations with former players of them, it's not hard to see why so many people keep signing up to come be a part of whatever program they're a part of. Before we get into maybe a recap of tonight's conversation, I did want to just look back a little bit on what this athletic season has been for JMU. There's been some stats put out. I know with Kevin Warner this week, really talking about this being truly a season for the ages in terms of starting off, obviously, with the football success, but then what we saw through our Olympic sports, the run from basketball, and to really cap it off with baseball getting a win in the NCAA tournament and everything that came with that when maybe expectations weren't really for that as we started up the season. Maybe start with you, Taylor. Your just kind of thoughts, high level on what is a year for this program that I think all of us are going to be talking about probably as long as we're following this program for years to come.
For me, there's just a personal aspect to it, and it starts with Jeff Bourne. I was a fan of his athletic program as a student, had the pleasure of working with him for 6 years. before leaving JMU to go to UTSA. I think one of the last days I was at JMU, he invited me over to his office, and we just had a conversation that just reflected how passionate he was and how much he believed in everything he's done. And I can't think of a better send-off than what happened this year across the board with all of our sports, to really highlight this year really is kind of the pinnacle of what JMU athletics has been in its history as a Division I athletics program. And I think for everything that he has done as the CEO of this athletic program, it was just, not to get too sappy, it was almost a kind of a Disney movie storybook ending of like, this is how we're going to go out. And not only the success of the teams, but, who he's leaving in his stead. I mean, with an athletic director like Matt Rohn, and then replacing two of the most high profile head coaching positions on campus. It's just hard to put into words what that means. And I think you're talking about a legacy that's going to be generational moving forward. So I want to dedicate my closing comments in this episode to Jeff Bourne and just everything that he's meant to JMU, the JMU family. And I'm glad the season ended like it did.
Yeah, and the stat I was looking for was a 652 winning percentage this year for JMU sports for the men's teams, which was the best department since 1994-95. So, I mean, it's a pretty special era that we're in terms of what we did from a women's perspective as well. Just a really remarkable year. Steve, how will you look back on this season, maybe 10 years from now when you think back of what a special moment it was for this program to have really an unprecedented level of national success, but also potentially serves as the foundation for increased growth as we move into the new era under Matt Rohn?
Yeah, it's the best year we've had since 82, 83. So if you look in 83, our college baseball team went to the World Series. Our basketball team in that 82, 83 timeframe played Carolina and lost by 2, and Carolina won the national championship. That was our best year until this year. We've had other good years, but in terms of overall sports and overall everything we did, and I echo what Taylor said, it's a great way for Jeff Bourne to go out. I felt bad for Jeff in a lot of ways. I need to text him, but I feel bad that he ended up having to scramble as much as he did this year. When he knew he was going to retire, I don't think he ever thought he was involved in hiring Matt, which was fine, but I don't think he ever thought he'd have to replace head basketball coach, head football coach, and be as engaged as he was in the search for the athletic director. I'm glad he was, because it was key for him to be engaged in that. So he left us in a great spot. I'm just really happy. And tonight's exemplifies it. We've seen it with other interviews we've done on the Sound Off, but we're in really good shape. We're not in a place at this point where anybody should be worried. You should be really excited. You've got an athletic director that he was talking about the Caravans expanding the stadium. If he's going to talk about that at the Caravans, I have a feeling that's pretty high up on his list. I was going to ask these guys about temporary bleachers, but that's not their deal. I'm hoping we bring those in for this season. I will continue to chirp about that until somebody tells me we can't have them. But there's no reason we should have just 26,000 in that stadium. We should have close to 30. And I'd love it if we can do it. But I love where we are. And if you look at where we are and those three, and I'll call them young men because they are compared to me, they're more your age, which is nice. The guys that are on this podcast, other than me, they're in your age bracket. Spradlin, I think, is 37 or 38. I think Chesney's 40, maybe 41. I think Matt Rohn's the same, in that same area. I don't want to age coach Chesney. If he's still in his 30s, fine. I don't think he is. I think he's in his early 40s. What I like about this is that the old gray hair guys are getting out of the way and letting the young guys lead. And that excites me. That makes me want to give more money. That makes me want to be more involved. And if there's anybody else out there, it doesn't matter how much you give something. But this university needs to take off. And you're going to see, so Chandler just put something here that says he's 46. I don't know who he says is 46. That might be Chesney.
Yeah.
So Chesney's the oldest of the three. At 46, I think Roan's 42 or 43, and I know Preston is 37 or 38, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's what I like to see. Now, I don't know who the next president of the university is going to be. I love that Charlie King is our interim. That person will probably somebody that's, I don't know. I shouldn't say it because I don't know. But it would make me happy if it's somebody in the same generation as you guys, because this is what succession means. This is what it means when you start passing along to the next group. We see in our presidential campaign, we have 2 really old people. And, you know, I would hope at some point that a younger generation decides to step into that breach on the national stage. That's not what this podcast is about. But for the university and for JMU, I'm really happy where we are. I'm going to be happy to see what we're asked to do as a fan base. We're going to be asked to stretch. We're going to be asked to stretch hard. And I think you're going to see Matt Roan and everybody else not be complacent and not say, hey, we're going to rely on just the same people to do the same thing all the time. If you want something, you got to pay for it. You know, the collective, and I want to welcome Jonathan to the collective. On Tuesday, the collective board voted Jonathan onto the board. So he's now a board member of the Montpelier Collective. There's a lot we're going to be doing as a collective. You know, we're going to be pivoting and doing a whole lot of stuff. We're going to have big fundraising goals, because we're going to need a boatload of money to retain and to recruit people to JMU. So I'm just excited about where we are and where we're positioned. So that's what I took out of tonight, and having those 2 young coaches on, both of them talking about, you know, how excited they are to be at JMU, how this is such a great place to be, and how they're helping shape these guys. We couldn't be in a better spot.
Awesome. My final comment tonight is just anecdotal, but it's something that's happened a number of times over the past couple of weeks. Is when you host a weekly conversation like this that goes out to as many JMU fans as it does, and you know, humble enough to say that we're not the only ones that do discussions like this. So I'm sure this experience is not unique just to the sound off. But was shopping yesterday at BJ's, just getting some stuff for my kids for lunch and groceries for the week, and ran into a fan who just had a JMU hat on. She stopped me and said, "Hey, do you work with JMU Sound Off?" I said, "Yeah," and had a really great discussion. And she had a hat on similar to what Taylor has on, and it led to a great conversation about the excitement around the ability to get JMU merchandise in town now, which she got from Carol Bonassi's Your Purple Nation store in Richmond, and it just was again a small interaction. But just showed how excited fans are to be a fan of JMU now. And I have 2 neighbors on my street now who are both grads of the program who have now come in contact with this show. And, outside of that, but they're just genuinely connected in a way that they didn't even think that they would be 10 years ago or 15 years ago when they were on campus. And I think that, to me, serves as such a powerful realization of what's going on. Something is special in Harrisonburg right now that so many grads who may have fallen away in terms of their contact with JMU, or maybe hadn't gone to a game in a really long time, are reconnecting with this program in a way that I think is going to pay huge dividends. And it's exciting for me to think, I mean, if we have 26,000 fans on a regular now inside Bridgeforth, and more eyeballs are coming to this program, what's the next 5 years look like? And the reason I bring that as my final comment is there's a lot of things to be anxious about the future of college athletics. Very legitimate things about the financing mechanisms for all of this. Is any of it sustainable? What's going to happen with conferences? But I'm really excited about the fact that whatever happens, we're coming into this with an unprecedented level of energy, exposure, and passion for the success of this program. And that makes me more confident at night, knowing that whatever happens in the future, I think we're going to be okay. And now knowing that we have somebody like Matt Roan from day one has demonstrated, not only a unique skill set, but you can see the passion that he has for this program. You can't fake it. And it's obvious. And I think we're in really good shape. And when you see the young coaches that we have on this staff and our continued ability to recruit talent to Harrisonburg like we have through all of these transitions, we seem to always raise the bar. I remember a lot of us thinking, what's going to happen when Coach Houston left? What was going to happen with Kurt Signetti? I feel really good about where we are. And the same applies to basketball, seeing what Coach P is bringing into Harrisonburg in terms of what we might have on the court as we go into the new athletic year. So all really good things. We will be back next week. For those worrying about our summer plans, we're going to continue to do some shows as we go throughout the summer to keep you connected to JMU athletics. We're going to shift gears, though, a little bit of a focus looking back on the 20th anniversary of the 2004 National Championship team. So we're continuing to tell those stories. So stay tuned as we go throughout the week. We'll be promoting next week's episode. As always, again, want to thank our sponsors, Montpelier Collective, Skyline Financial Partners, Where's Woody, Talent Corps, and YourAppropriateNation.com. Again, without them, these shows don't happen. And to all of our listeners, thanks for making time during the summer months. We know there's vacations. We know you're at the beach. So if you're not listening to these episodes live, pop them on when you're on the road trip or when you're on the beach chair. We appreciate any amount of time you spend with us each and every week. It's why we do these shows. And with that, gentlemen, we'll see you next week. And as always, Michael, I know he's traveling. So Michael, if you tune in, safe travels wherever you are in the United States. We hope to have you back on the show soon. For our producer, Chandler, Jonathan McNamara, Steve Brown, Taylor Atkins, to our guests, Drew Canan and Coach Kennedy, we appreciate your time. And with that, go Dukes. We'll talk to you guys soon.